Ladies and gentlemen, let's get real for a second. What is normal? Normal is that box they try to fit you in. Normal is the routine they hand you at birth. Go to school, get the grades, stay quiet, get the job, blend in, don't rock the boat. But let me ask you something. Who decided that was normal? Who said you have to shrink just to fit into someone else's mold? I'll tell you something they don't tell you enough. You weren't born to blend in. You were born to break the damn pattern. And here's the twist. Redefining normal means rejecting the box others put you in. From the moment we're born, society begins to whisper its expectations. These whispers grow into voices: teachers, parents, media, culture, all shaping a version of normal that's safe, predictable, and widely accepted. It tells us how to act, how to speak, what success looks like, and what failure should make us feel like. We're encouraged to walk in straight lines, follow the rules, stay inside the lines, and not cause too much noise. This version of normal is sold to us as the only way to live a good life, but for many of us, it doesn't fit. It never did. The box we're put in is often invisible, but we can feel it pressing in on us. It shows up when someone tells you that's not realistic, or people like you don't do things like that. It's there when you look at your dreams and feel like they're too big for the space you're allowed to occupy. It's in the self, doubt that comes from comparing yourself to others who seem to be playing the game better, checking the right boxes, wearing the right labels, fitting into the right molds. The problem is, if you spend your whole life trying to be what others expect, you lose the parts of yourself that make you powerful. Normal is a moving target anyway. What was considered rebellious a generation ago is now seen as common. Wearing your natural hair, loving who you love, building a career outside the 9 to 5. It was all once considered abnormal. But people made space for new definitions by rejecting the old ones, not with rage all the time, sometimes quietly. Persistently, they lived differently. They told the truth about who they were, and over time the shape of normal changed. But redefining normal isn't just about making a statement for others. It's deeply personal. It's about looking at your own life and asking, who am I when no one's watching? What do I actually want, outside of what I've been told I should want? It's about recognizing the tension between the life you have and the life you envision. For some, that means walking away from a job that drains them, even when everyone else says it's a dream role. For others, it means embracing their voice, their style, their beliefs, even when it makes them different. And difference is often seen as a problem. Schools reward conformity. Workplaces often reward obedience. Even in social settings, there's an unspoken pressure to play the role you've been assigned. But greatness doesn't come from conformity. Progress never came from the people who did what was expected. It came from the ones who were willing to stand out, be misunderstood, and stay true to a vision that didn't match the script they were handed. Rejecting the box doesn't mean rejecting people. It means rejecting limits. It means deciding that the world doesn't get to decide how small or how loud or how bright you're allowed to be. It means understanding that too much is often code for uncomfortable, and sometimes making people uncomfortable is the only way to show them what's possible. But it's not easy. The box is comfortable, it's familiar, it comes with approval, validation, and safety. Stepping out of it comes with questions, with fear, with isolation. Sometimes you'll be told you're difficult. You'll be told you're unrealistic, too ambitious, too emotional, too unorthodox. But those are the very qualities that often light the path forward. The same traits people criticize now are the ones they'll admire later, once you've turned your difference into strength. And let's be honest, many people don't even realize they're living inside a box until something shakes them. A loss, a failure, a burnout, a moment of clarity that hits so hard, you can't ignore it. You wake up one day and realize the life you're living isn't yours. It's a stitched-together version of other people's ideas, fears, and limitations. That's when you begin to question. That's when you begin to imagine. And that's when the real work begins. Redefining normal means building a life that reflects your truth, not just your resume. It means having the courage to be seen as different and the patience to keep going even when you're misunderstood. It means saying no to things that drain you, even if they look good on paper. It means making choices that make sense to you, even when they don't make sense to anyone else. People will project their fears onto you. They'll tell you that coloring outside the lines is risky, that stability is more important than fulfillment. But security without authenticity is a quiet kind of suffering. You end up with a life that looks good on the outside but feels hollow on the inside. You go through the motions, tick all the boxes, and still wonder why you're not happy. That's not living, that's surviving. And survival is not the goal. The goal is to live deeply, to feel fully, to be whole. And you can't do that if you're living by someone else's rules. Redefining normal means writing your own story. It means accepting that your path might not make sense to others. That's okay, it's not supposed to. It only has to make sense to you. And if you're waiting for permission, let this be it. You don't need anyone's blessing to live on your own terms. The people who matter will adjust. The ones who don't weren't meant to go with you. You will find your people, your tribe, the ones who don't just accept your difference, but celebrate it. But you only find them when you start showing up as your full self. It's not about being loud for the sake of it. It's about being real asterisk. It's about walking into rooms without shrinking. It's about speaking your truth, even when your voice shakes. It's about choosing alignment over approval. Every time you say no to a version of life that doesn't fit, you say yes to a version that does. That's how normal gets redefined, not in one big moment, but in thousands of small ones, quiet decisions. Brave steps, honest conversations. Every time you listen to your intuition over outside noise, you take back a piece of your power. And with enough of those pieces, you build something beautiful, something honest, something yours. Smiling through struggle is a silent act of strength and self-definition. In a world that often equates power with loudness, with visible dominance, with winning battles that everyone can see, we forget the quiet resilience that exists in something as simple as a smile. Not the forced plastic smile we put on for the sake of appearances, but the real one, the kind that says, "I'm still here." The kind that doesn't deny the pain, but chooses not to be consumed by it. That kind of smile carries a weight most people will never fully understand, because it is rooted in endurance, in self-respect, in the refusal to be broken by circumstances. When everything around you is falling apart, when life hands you situations that seem too heavy to bear, Smiling becomes more than an expression. It becomes a declaration. It says, you haven't taken everything from me. It says, I still own this moment. It's a message to yourself that even in the middle of fear, grief, or chaos, you still get to choose your response. That choice is power. That choice reclaims your narrative when life tries to write it for you. The world sees smiles as signs of joy, but sometimes they're signs of resistance. Sometimes that smile is a person's way of saying, you didn't destroy me. In the midst of illness, heartbreak, rejection, poverty, or loneliness, when someone smiles, they're often not saying, I'm okay. They're saying, I'm not giving up. That's a completely different message. It's one that doesn't beg for sympathy. It commands respect. People underestimate what it takes to smile when you're in pain. They assume you're fine. They don't see the nights you spent questioning your worth, or the mornings you struggled just to get out of bed. They don't see the emotional battles you're fighting, the inner war that you keep hidden behind your eyes. But you smile anyway, not to pretend everything's perfect, but to show yourself, and sometimes others, that you haven't lost who you are. That smile becomes your boundary, your armor, your refusal to surrender. Smiling through struggle doesn't mean you're suppressing your feelings. It doesn't mean you're ignoring the reality of what you're going through. It means you're choosing to rise. It means you're making room for hope, even if it's just a sliver. It's a survival mechanism, but it's also a form of rebellion. It tells the world, I still believe in something, maybe not in a happy ending just yet, but in myself, in the idea that this moment won't define me. We often look for visible proof of strength muscles, medals, victories, loud declarations, but strength lives in the subtle. It lives in the person who keeps showing up. It lives in the parent who's exhausted but still shows love. It lives in the student who keeps trying after failing over and over. It lives in the broken heart that still dares to open again. That strength isn't loud. It doesn't ask for recognition, but it's real, and often it's wearing a quiet smile. In cultures that equate success with constant motion, with always being on, always being productive, there's something deeply powerful about stillness, about grace, about choosing not to lash out when you have every reason to. Smiling in the storm doesn't mean the storm doesn't matter. It means you've decided that your spirit is greater than your circumstance. It's not detachment, it's clarity. It's choosing how to carry the weight you've been given without letting it define your posture or your presence. Think of the people who have inspired you the most. Chances are it wasn't just their talent or achievement that moved you. It was their presence. It was how they handled adversity. It was how they walked into rooms with dignity when everything around them was falling apart. It was how they smiled not out of denial, but out of determination. That kind of energy shifts atmospheres. That kind of energy isn't taught. It's earned through experience and pain, and the decision to still believe in your own light. There's also something profoundly self-defining about smiling when it's hard. The world will try to write your identity for you based on what you've lost or what you lack. It'll say you're the broken one, you're the victim, you're the one who didn't make it. But when you smile, you're asserting a different identity. You're saying, I'm the one who keeps going. That's not just optimism. That's authorship. That's you choosing who you are, even in the darkest moments. When someone smiles after being hurt, they're not pretending the hurt didn't happen. They're proving that it didn't kill their softness. that the pain didn't rob them of their humanity. In a time where it's easy to grow bitter, cynical, and cold, maintaining warmth is one of the bravest things a person can do. A smile can be an act of radical compassion, not just for others, but for yourself. It says, I still have love in me. I still believe in something better. There's also a misconception that showing struggle makes you weak, so people hide it. They suffer in silence, afraid to be seen as fragile. But there's nothing fragile about someone who chooses to smile while carrying invisible burdens. That's strength that's been tested. That's wisdom in motion. And sometimes that smile isn't even for others. It's a gift to yourself, a reminder that you still have control over something, even if it's just your attitude, even if it's just this one expression in this one moment. Some of the most powerful people in history smiled through unthinkable adversity. Their smiles weren't shallow or naive. They were layered with pain, yes, but also resilience, grace, and fire. Those smiles didn't mean they weren't hurting. They meant they were alive, that they hadn't given the world the satisfaction of seeing them broken. There's a message in that for all of us, that even in our most vulnerable moments, we can choose dignity, we can choose beauty, we can choose to face the world on our terms. Smiling through struggle doesn't erase the struggle. It reframes it. It says, I'm more than what I'm going through. It's an invitation to look deeper, to understand that strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it rests in your eyes, in your breath, in the corners of your mouth, when you refuse to let despair dictate your expression. It's not about being fake. It's about being fierce in a different way. It's about realizing that vulnerability and strength are not opposites. They coexist, that you can cry one moment and laugh the next, and both are real. That your spirit is complex and resilient, and doesn't need to fit into anyone else's definition of how strength should look or sound. Smiling through the hard times teaches you that you can survive without hardening, that your heart can stay open even when the world feels closed, that you can be honest about your pain without becoming it, that you can endure the fire and still carry light. The world may never fully understand the quiet power of that choice, but you will, because you lived it, because you chose it, because you became it. And so, in a world that keeps handing us labels, limitations, and neatly packaged definitions of who we're supposed to be, we arrive at a truth that can't be taught in textbooks or squeezed into a job description. Redefining normal and smiling through struggle are not just phrases, they are ways of living. They are courageous acts. They are choices we make every single day, often quietly, often alone, but always with purpose. These aren't abstract concepts. They are the heartbeat of real people who have chosen to stop letting the world shrink them. What does it mean, really, to redefine normal? It means tearing off the labels that never belonged to us. It means unlearning rules that were written by people who never knew our names, our dreams, or our pain. It means realizing that the path you're on doesn't have to match the map someone else drew. Maybe your life doesn't look like the blueprint handed to you when you were young. And maybe that's the best thing about it. Because those who redefine normal are the ones who end up creating lives that are fully alive. They step outside of the lines and end up discovering color. They break the mold and find their shape. They walk away from the expectations of others and finally step into the power of who they are. And how do they walk that path? Often, it's not with a loud declaration or a dramatic exit. Often they walk it with something so simple, so underestimated, that it's often overlooked entirely, a smile. Smiling through the struggle doesn't mean pretending everything's okay. It doesn't mean hiding the pain or faking happiness. It means choosing to respond with hope. It means saying, even here, even now, I'm still me. That smile is resistance. It is proof. It is a message to yourself and to the world that while the struggle may be shaping you, it will not define you. That even under pressure, you can still access grace. The combination of redefining normal and smiling through struggle is what makes us human in the most powerful way. It's easy to go numb. It's easy to paste your life from someone else's version. But choosing to live intentionally, to find joy in broken moments, to own your difference and stand tall in it, that is a revolution in itself. You become a living contradiction to what the world expects. They expect you to fall apart, but you rise. They expect you to be bitter, but you show love. They expect silence, but you speak your truth. And sometimes you do all of that with a single smile. There's something deeply sacred about choosing yourself in a world that constantly asks you to be someone else. When you redefine normal, you give yourself permission to evolve. You stop chasing validation and start seeking truth. You begin to understand that there's no one right way to live, no universal timeline you have to follow, no role you have to perform to earn your worth. You were worthy the whole time, you just had to stop shrinking to remember that. Redefining normal means you no longer carry shame for the things that make you different. Instead, you carry them as proof that you survived, adapted, and chose to be real instead of accepted. And when the weight of life starts to feel unbearable, when doubt creeps in and the world feels too heavy, that's when the smile matters most. Not for others, but for you. That smile becomes your anchor. It's how you remind yourself that even when the ground is shaking, you're still standing. It's how you remind yourself that peace is not something that arrives once everything is perfect. Peace is something you create in the middle of the mess. That smile becomes the breath between battles, the pause in the chaos, the reminder that you still have power over how you show up. You don't have to wait until the pain is gone to be proud of yourself. You don't have to wait until you've figured everything out to be whole. Life is not waiting for you to be perfect. It's asking you to be present. It's asking you to be honest. To bring your scars, your story, your truth, and still say, here I am, because that's what this is really about. Not perfection, not pretending, but presence, real presence. And that presence becomes more powerful when you smile, because a real smile is not an absence of pain. It is the presence of courage. We live in a world that's always watching, always judging, always trying to fit us into neat boxes. But the moment you decide to break that box and smile anyway, you are no longer playing their game. You're living by your own rules, and when you do that, you start to attract what's meant for you, the right people, the right paths, the right energy, not because you're performing, but because you're aligned, because you're no longer faking peace. You're building it. Every decision to live fully, every refusal to shrink, every smile that rises through the storm is a piece of that foundation. And here's what's truly extraordinary. Once you start to live this way, authentically, bravely, with joy, not as a performance but as a choice, You start to give others permission to do the same. Your courage becomes a mirror. Your smile becomes a signal. People see you and think, if they can do it, maybe I can too. And without even knowing it, your life becomes a lighthouse for someone else's storm. You don't have to shout. You don't have to prove anything. You just have to be real, be consistent, be you. There will still be hard days. There will still be doubts. Redefining normal doesn't mean the road gets easy. It means you stop waiting for easy. You start walking anyway. You realize that your version of success, happiness, purpose, it might not look like anyone else's. And that's not only okay, it's the point. Your difference is your power. Your story, with all its mess and beauty, is your voice. And your smile, honest and unforced, is your crown. So wherever you are right now, whether you're thriving, surviving, or somewhere in between, remember this. You don't owe the world a performance. You owe yourself the truth. Redefining normal is not a finish line you cross. It's a choice you make daily. And smiling through the struggle is not about masking pain. It's about owning your story and choosing to show up with your head held high. You don't have to ask for permission to live differently. You don't need approval to feel joy. You are not here to fit into anyone's idea of who you should be. You are here to create, to live boldly, to love deeply, to rise often, to smile even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard, because that smile, that choice, that's where your power lives. And when you choose it, fully, unapologetically, fiercely, nothing can stop you.